What's up, Wesley? Welcome back to the Charleston Wesley podcast, where we make ministry available on the go. I'm Ava, and I'm the Wesley worship intern.
And I'm John, and I'm serving as the pastor of the Wesley Foundation, and man, it's an awesome school year thus far, and I'm on cloud nine about it, and we're going to be talking about some really important stuff with a really special guest coming back. It is our very own Isabella Knapp.
Woo!
Isabella, could you remind folks who you are?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Isabella, and I'm the communications intern for the Charleston Wesley Foundation. And I go to CFC, or College of Charleston, but I'm a marketing major there, and I grew up in North Myrtle Beach, so not too far. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. You're also the communications
director for St. James.
Yeah.
That's right.
Isabella's
Shout out.
kind of a big deal, guys. Also, if you've gotten any stickers from the Wesley Foundation, that's all Isabella. So, and the name to the artist, I don't know. Is that what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm a little tired, admittedly, right now. So, I'm trying to wake up, but the insomnia's got me. So,
to wake us up, I have a fun little question, if you guys are ready.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, if you...
Oh, no.
This really isn't a funny question, but, just the concept of deli meat, just makes me laugh. But, if you...
Sometimes called sandwich deli meat.
Whoa.
So, if you could build the perfect sandwich, what would it be? And in that, you need to include your favorite deli meat.
Oh, well, this is not.
This is
easy. Ava was like, I got a good question about deli meat. And really what you're asking us is, what's our Subway order? Which yesterday, pro tip to our listeners, Harris Teeter sandwich bar, it's got it going on.
Wow.
And if you get the Vic card, the very important customer, which, by the way, college students, they get a 5% discount at the one downtown. You get a free sub every 4 subs or something like that, so it's pretty good, and so it's a pretty good sandwich bar. But to answer your question, big fan of foot-long ham and cheese on Italian herbs and cheese roll. It's got to be white American. You toast it. I don't judge you. I'm going to offer you some great wisdom, dear listener, and Ava. I don't know what that means.
White
Isabel.
American cheese? Are you kidding me?
I do not appreciate this. But I picked this up from my favorite podcast, Stuff You Should Know, Ava.
Okay.
Don't yuck someone's yum, okay? So, and I wasn't done, thank you very much. So, foot long, Italian herbs and cheese, ham and cheese, white American, toasted. Then you get some mustard and mayo on that bad boy. You get some lettuce, you get some pickles. Then you get some banana peppers, and then you top it off with some pepper and oregano, and you are cooking with gas, my friends. You are cooking.
I think I'm about to eat my paper.
I would not. I would
It's
not.
9 a.m. Why are you craving a sandwich that bad? Okay, y'all are making this way too easy. See, to me, I think about, Brown Dog Deli in, downtown Charleston, how, out of the box their sandwiches are. I'm saying, you can pick, any ingredients you want. So one of the ones I like there is, it's a funny name, but Rosemary's Baby Daddy. I think it's, a throwback to a movie.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, Rosemary's Baby. That's, a terrible, terrible movie
Awful, don't watch.
Yeah, it's about, a demon baby, right?
I had to watch it in class.
What?
Yes. Anyway,
Are you
that's
sure?
great.
Why did you? What class were you in that you had to watch that?
It was history.
Oh.
Satan in America.
Oh,
Oh.
right. I
Okay.
forgot
Yeah.
about that class.
Did you not tell me you took that class? Because I did not know until now that you took that class.
I thought I did tell you that.
I don't
that
know. That does
freshman
vaguely
year.
sound familiar.
Yeah.
But you took Satan in America. Interesting.
I had to read a book on The Exorcist or something.
Did you read the actual book or a book on?
A book about.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
The Exorcist is actually a book. It was a very famous book.
I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Anyway,
Back to television.
so Rosemary's Baby Daddy is your
Well,
go-to.
that or
Are you looking it up right now?
No, I have sandwich recipes on my phone's note app. The problem is I love roast beef, but I also love feta cheese. And, like, how does feta cheese
don't go together.
go with roast beef?
definitely
And
not.
so that's why this question was hard for me, because my favorite deli meat is probably roast beef.
Interesting.
But I can't pair that with my favorite cheese, which is probably feta.
Italian 6-inch baby. But I also get like
I do like an
lettuce,
Italian, but yeah.
lettuce, tomato, and banana peppers.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. A
Big
little
fan
bit
of banana
of
peppers.
ranch drizzle.
Ranch drizzle.
Yes,
That's weird.
I know. I'm a weirdo.
I like a good aioli.
Yeah.
Like,
Ooh.
Did you know that just like pregnant people like can't eat any of this stuff? You can't have deli meats. You can't have aioli.
So I'm never having a kid.
yeah,
That's
it's
what it's sounding like.
It's been like a journey with Hannah being pregnant right now,
That's
and it's
crazy.
just like, yeah, she just can't have. I will say I'm a big sandwich guy, so like I like a lot of different types of sandwich. Brown dog's great. East Bay is a big fan of East Bay, and then Cersei's Grotto, which is right near
yeah.
They make a good
CFC's
Italian.
campus. That's a great one, and so yeah, good stuff all around.
We're giving out some good recommendations
Yeah.
for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, you go for it. Also, Legends Deli is good too.
Oh, yeah.
wanna
That's
go
a new
there.
one that's on George Street, and for our cadets, sorry that there's no sandwich shops in
I heard
close proximity.
Publix,
Sad.
though, is apparently killing it at the sandwich game. And they
I
have
mean, we
one
have
really
public
good
sub.
one.
sandwiches a lot. Yeah, a pub sub.
Yeah, that's what they
they're-
call it.
Is it like a sandwich bar?
I think so.
Yeah.
More
think
important
so.
question: does City Bistro still have their sandwich bar?
They do.
Yeah.
But the line is always super long.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth it. Those are good sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I tell my shameful story about the time that I got the sandwich in City Bistro? I feel like I should at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
So, City Bistro is one of the dining halls at College of Charleston, and they have a wonderful sandwich bar. My freshman year, I would go in there every day and get the sandwich.
Yeah.
And one day, I was ordering my sandwich, and the person making the lovely woman who was making the sandwich just started crying. And that puts you in a very weird spot because you're like ordering her to do stuff, but she's crying.
oh my gosh.
And so
I would just walk away, John.
Well, so I was hungry.
Yeah.
I had to figure something out. So I was struck, and I was like, do I act like I don't notice her crying because I don't want to embarrass her, right? Because obviously crying on the job is not a good look, like especially when you're in hospitality. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I didn't want to make her feel like embarrassed or whatever. So do I ignore it, or do I bring attention to it and show that I am sympathetic and that I care for her? And I decided to hit right in the middle. And I was like, listen, I am really sorry for whatever's going on in your life.
Whoa.
Could I get mustard on that?
Oh, man.
And she gave me the mustard. And I have to tell you, friends, that was like the best sandwich I've ever had from City Bistro. And like I'm pretty sure it was seasoned with tears. And
Yeah,
it was just
the
great.
salt and
Yeah,
the
the
tears.
salt right there.
Yeah.
That was a weird, surreal experience for me. And then I became a pastor.
Oh my gosh. Just like,
I'll let that one sit for a little bit.
well, okay. Thank you for that. It doesn't sound like you were a great friend to that lady. So how about we talk
She
about...
probably still thinks about you. to
Okay,
this
you
day.
just ruined my segue.
I think about her pretty often. So, I think where Ava was trying to steer the ship was to segue into the topic of today, which is how to maintain healthy friendships in a Christian way. And I think if you haven't picked up off of the demeanor of our conversation thus far, listeners, we are all pretty close. We're all pretty comfortable with each other. Let's give some context. Isabella and Ava, do y'all wanna give us the quick spark notes of y'all's beautiful friendship?
Aww. yeah, sure.
Wait,
So Yeah, we met junior year of high school and did the last 2 years of high school. We did a bunch of art classes together. And then she told me she was going to college Charleston early on, and I was like, I'm never going there. And then months
well, we
later,
were about to go to App State.
Yeah. We loved the mountains. We wanted to be mountain girls, and then we were just like, never mind.
Could have handled that.
Charleston it is. It's like, this is like the App State, I feel like, of... Never mind, I don't know the allergy there.
So.
But yeah, she was going to college Charleston, and I was like, let me check that baby out. And then she... and then...
Keep it PG.
She... What? She had, like, a roommate situation. I had a roommate situation. Both, again, friends from high school, and neither of those ended up going. And so we were like, hey, we're left with each other. Let's just do this thing. And then we roomed, and it was, yeah. And then we came to Wesley, and we've stuck together. So
you, Ava, you brought Isabella to Wesley, right?
Yeah.
Is that my understanding?
Yeah, like,
I don't remember meeting you like over the summer, like tabling.
I don't even think I went to the orientation
Okay. Dude, I skipped that too when I went to orientation.
Really?
I was so overwhelmed. I was like,
yeah, that was it. I was like stressed out.
Yeah, and for those of you, just to add a little bit of context, Isabella's been working with me this is starting her 3rd year. So she's like She's a veteran with me. Almost as long as I've been director, Isabella's been communications intern.
I remember it was like, what, the first month? Or
a
couple weeks
I think it was like September or October. Because I just knew that I did not want to do this anymore. I was like, I do not want to do social media anymore. And I was like, I got to find someone. And it was a big gamble hiring a freshman. Everyone was just like, are you sure about that? And I was like, I don't know. I got a good feeling.
Whoa.
And then here we are. And now Ava is an intern too, so the former roommates are co-interns together. Simmer down. That made me uncomfortable. So, clearly y'all are good friends. Clearly, faith plays a factor in that friendship. I would say that that's probably deepened y'all's friendship.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. That was a good answer. So, jumping right into it. Is it important to have friends? Is it important to have friends in the same faith as you? And another way of asking that is, has having friends, Christian friends, helped your own faith journey? And how so? So, first question is, same faith friends, is that good? Is that important? What are the benefits? And then from a personal experience, how has that helped you in your faith journey? Not how you have helped them, but how they have helped you.
I think having friends in like your same faith as you is important, because I think I've talked about this before, but to me, I see, like, there's 2 different relationships I have with God. I have my personal one, and then I have my community-based one. And so, like, but that community-based one is just so, like, important in the fellowship aspect. So, like, without it, you could definitely feel, like, very alone, I feel like, in faith, because faith is sometimes a hard thing to come to terms with, or, like, sometimes you have questions, or sometimes you're having a really bad day, or sometimes you're having a really good day in your faith. And so, like, when you don't have a community to talk to about it, like, I feel like that'd be very lonely and just a lot to have to keep bottled up in your head at times. And so, like, the way that my Christian friends have helped me in my faith journey is allowed me to just, like, rant about questions I have, or be honest about if I'm ever having doubts, or, like, get a lot of those, like, deeper feelings out about my faith that I wouldn't just share, like, on a random Sunday morning, you know? So, yeah.
What about you, Isabella? In that creaky chair.
100%. It's important to have friends in the same faith as you, because, like, I feel like you said it before, John, like, before we started this podcast, you can, like, talk about anything with them, and it's okay. I remember I had like this one episode one night freshman year, and I like spiraled, and of course I took it out on Abe's by accident.
I don't even remember this, if that makes you feel better.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. But yeah, that happened, and you were willing to like sit down with me and talk about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I still don't know what you're talking about, but I'm glad.
Yeah. And that was like, I don't do that often, by the way, people. That was just a one-time event. But it's important to have friends who will like listen to you and understand you. And I feel like Christian friends are, they extend a different level of grace.
Mm.
I also think that when you have Christian friends and who have helped you in your faith journey, you also become more open to your faith and like different ideas of revolving around faith. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I mean, one, we are called to practice our faith in community. And so inherently being a Christian is a communal experience. And in community, you have friends. So, you know, church friends are awesome friends. I love having church friends, right? And that kind of continues past college into, you know, adulthood of you got people that you see every Sunday, and it's really great to see them. And then sometimes you get lunch with them afterwards. And then also it's really helpful as you get older, too. You know, a lot of churches will have like a young couples Sunday school class because, you know, being married in your 20s is not easy. They'll have young parents classes. They'll have, vacation Bible school, and a lot of the parents will volunteer together. So, like, you kind of always develop friendships in Christian community. And that is kind of an expectation, I guess I should say. And it is incredibly beneficial. I don't want to suggest that non-Christian people have the inability to present Christian values, right? I think that there are a lot of people who are not professing Christians who do show love and grace and peace and joy. But when they are Christians, we kind of have the framework of where that's coming from, and I do think that it offers us a level of peace in knowing that that shared experience is between y'all. So I do think it's important, and I can list off plenty of people who have helped me in my faith by being friends who believe and who go to church and who read the Bible and pray and all that good stuff. But I guess another question I have is, is it important having friends that aren't Christian? Or is there dangers in that y'all see? Or, how do you kind of approach that?
Yes, definitely important to have friends that aren't Christian. I know I do. I have half and half, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like half who aren't Christian, half, some are even, totally, not open to, believing, what would you say? Atheist, I guess?
It just depends on them.
Yeah, but, they are great people, like you said. They definitely show those characteristics. There is some, slip-ups, though, that we're human, and they fall into sin. It's a little bit harder for them to, get back up because they don't have, God to rely on.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, I guess, had to help them in that because I'm, their friend. That's what friends do. And sometimes it can, take a toll on you, but it shouldn't. Because, they definitely need you in their lives, obviously. And I hate to be like this, but if you're a kind of develop that fix it, I can fix them mentality. Yeah. That's kind of what I just feel like we were talking about it the other night at book club, but
Sorry.
you're good, bless you.
Allergies.
I think that might be the first sneeze we've
I
caught
think
on
so.
I've been like over here blowing my nose,
Sorry.
messing with my brain activity. But we were at book club on Sunday night, and we were reading The Pilgrim's Progress. And Brendan, we were talking about godly friendships, actually, and what that means. But he brought up, like, a positive optimist. That was his word he used for it. And it's like somebody who, or a hopeful optimist, I'm sorry. Somebody who, like, has a hope for their friends to do better. And that's kind of how I would, like, describe me in that situation. Like, I just always think, like, my friends who aren't Christian, they could always, you know, maybe I could help them become a Christian and minister to them in that way as a friend.
Yeah. For me, like, I see it as it would be really hard in today's day and age to only have friends in the same faith as you, because I kind of look at it as, like, how would the world even work at that point if we only kept to our each religion? And also, I think, like, something I've always been told too is, like, you know, maybe someone wasn't as lucky as I was to get to grow up in a good church environment, but I can be that example of a good church environment to that person. So I think not only, like, does being friends with non-Christian people benefit our view of the world and our sense of, like, unity, but I think it also can benefit them in showing them, like, hey, Christianity is not this scary, you know, judgmental thing. Like, you know, we can be a good example of Christianity. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it is difficult to just have church friends. That being said, I would say that majority of my friendships now are just church friends. I'm also the type of person that's okay not having a huge network of friends. I mean, I'm, like, interconnected with a lot of people just by nature of my job and role, but, like, you know, as far as, like, friends that I have, like, cookouts with or hang out with, it's a pretty small number. But I think it's always good to get outside perspectives on things. There's great benefit in being challenged in what we think. I have found that the friendships that I have, that those people who do not believe have actually solidified my own belief, because I can kind of see differences in our lifestyles. And you know, I used to be friends with people that they would party a lot, and that's kind of how they decided to spend their time, and that's their choice, and they say they're happy with that, and that's fine. But I just kind of realized eventually that I was like, you know, that doesn't seem fun to me. Like, I'd much rather stay at home and save money and play video games and read a book. Like, you know, like, so that being said, you know, interacting with people who live a different life than you is helpful in that it helps you understand your own life, and it gives you some perspective in it, and it allows you to kind of be more empathetic. So that's one thing. Two, I think we're all supposed to be friendly. I mean, I think that Christ's message of love your neighbor as yourself, you know, friendliness is in that. And so, you know, being kind to everyone, regardless of their faith system, is an inherent thing. You know, you got to do that. And like we said, you know, it's a pretty good place for evangelism, for witnessing Christ, for telling people about the good news. Whether or not that's the motivation in the friendship, I don't know. I don't know if that's the healthiest mentality to have, but to be willing to witness when they're ready to receive that is, I think, being a good friend.
I do have, like, a question for you.
Okay.
But, like, how would you go about if a friend kind of didn't accept you, like accept your faith?
Yeah,
And
so
they have like a good heart and everything.
sure.
Well, I think it's not always like directly like I don't accept your faith, but sometimes it's in like the jokes or like
Exactly,
the
yeah.
underlying tone
Yeah.
of conversations.
Well, I have the benefit of being a pastor, so everyone knows that doesn't fly, right? But I was in your shoes when like I was kind of going through that, and if I am supposed to extend grace for people who are choosing to live a life that's not what I believe, then the people that I'm close with, I expect them to extend the same grace to me, right?
Right.
So if I'm supposed to extend grace to someone when they are saying a lot of things that I don't believe, then they're doing a lot of things that I don't think we should be doing. When they're skeptical of like what I've built my life around, if I'm supposed to extend grace to them, I think it's a two-way street, in that they should extend grace to me, and that I choose not to say those things, I choose not to do those things, and I do build my life around this. And just because I've built my life around it doesn't mean that they have to,
right.
and it doesn't mean that I'm even expecting them to.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't extend me that grace, then I don't really care to be friends with them, because they want me to extend the same grace to them. I mean, like I said, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So I would say that, and that's a harsher thing to hear, but I think the other thing that a lot of people in church are forgetting very quickly is, if you are a Christian, and I think this is really hard to reconcile with kind of the American dream and a lot of like the cultural identity that America has given its citizens, but you are not the main character of your own life when you profess Christ.
Yes.
And that's really hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
In that, like, in the course of my life, I am not the most important one. Mm-hmm. And that's really bizarre. And so, yeah, like I'm gonna hang out with people that allow me to focus on the main character. Like, I mean, and if they don't focus on the main character, that's fine, but they shouldn't interfere with my focus on the main character. So that's a harsher thing to say, but I guess what I'm saying is that your priorities should be kind of reoriented, and you should worry about the main character, not these side quest people that are in some ways like disparaging of the main character.
Yeah, I was just wondering because, I have friends who are pretty accepting, but I've had others come to me and are like, yeah, I don't really like so-and-so because, she, like, stomps on over me when I go to a Bible study, and I don't really like that. I like to hear that, but I like how you explained.
Well, the other thing, too, is, like, fact is fact, and we talked about this in our evangelism episode, but like I think a lot of people are weird about being pressuring. I think a lot of Christians are afraid that they're going to add pressure to people. Yeah. Of being like, yeah, I went to Bible study last night. I see a lot of students who are like, oh yeah, I was hanging out with friends last night, instead of saying Bible study. But it's a fact. There's nothing wrong with being at Bible study. Yeah. I think there's something incredibly wrong if you go, oh yeah, I was at Bible study and you weren't there.
Ooh.
I don't think you should do that at all.
Whoa.
But like, fact is fact, and we shouldn't really apologize for it. So, if people are like giving us grief because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, then like, I don't really have patience to deal with that,
Yeah.
And
that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's at the end of the day,
Well, and I mean, for you have two jobs in ministries,
right.
So like, you kind of have the opportunity of being like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to my internship this Sunday,
Well, I always say church.
Yeah,
like I'm going to church, y'all.
Yeah, and listen, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's fact.
Yeah,
you know,
they kind of freeze for a second.
And that's on them.
That's on them.
And it's on you if you make it weird, but if they make it weird, then that's on them, you know?
I make a lot of things weird.
I know, but not necessarily this. So,
right.
So, going back to kind of our understanding of, like, Christian friendships, I think we see a lot in Scripture, a lot of examples. And to be honest, I kind of am actually going to back off of this question. Because friendship is like a blanket statement that we should extend to everyone, regardless of their faith life. We should be friendly to everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So, what are some basic biblical principles that make a good friendship?
I forget. I know people, I think this is a wedding one or something, but that slow to anger.
Love is patient, love is kind.
Well, that works. That's great. I was trying more.
Understand.
You're talking about James.
Okay. slow to
speak,
slow to anger, open to listening. Something like that. Quick to listening. Yeah, just like, I don't know. Yeah. Slow to anger, I think, is a big one. Because if I'm friends with someone and every single time we get together we're fighting, why would I want to keep, being friends with them? And then, like, another, I think my other big one, I guess, would be on that same vein, forgiveness for when people are angry, sometimes people have bad days, some people have, a bad week. And, just a good friendship, I think, a really strong friendship, I should say, would hopefully be able to get past those moments. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
You just basically covered it.
I covered all the biblical principles.
But, like, that's
the
what
whole
exactly...
No anger. Be
no
forgiving.
Anger, please. But also somebody who is willing to... extend a helping hand in, like, your hardest...
service, yeah.
Yeah, service.
Oh.
Hardest time.
Yeah,
even in the good times, too,
Yeah, you know how we talk, like, about love languages and how that applies to, like, relationships? I feel like you can apply those to, like, friendships, Like, if acts of service is your thing, I feel like there's biblical... What you were saying, like, being a helping hand could be, like, acts of service-y.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really know how you can
There's a whole, like, book on, like, the love languages of God and, like, how God's actions
interesting.
Yeah, it's by the same guy. Gary Chapman is, like, actually a Christian. The guy who made the 5 love languages. He's a big Christian speaker, and he's got a whole, the 5 love languages of God, and he kind of goes through Scripture to show the different ways. And it's actually a really good way of looking at your relationship with God, which we can talk about that at some other point.
Yeah. What's everybody's
words of affirmation, bro, all the way.
I can agree with that. I really need to be told that I'm doing a good job. So.
You're doing a great job, Isabella.
And acts of service. So are you, John.
Boom. Yeah. Let's go. What about you, Ava?
I'm just blown away.
Can we guess? I feel like you are horrible at receiving gifts.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know why.
Barely,
but...
I have to force her to go to lunch. If I to pay for her lunch, I mean.
I think I also know that touch is lowest on the totem. So I think for me, it's quality time and acts of service are definitely up there. Words of affirmation. It's kind of middle, I think, for me. Yeah. So, yeah, I got that scale. Yeah. The touch and the gifts probably lowest. Quality time and acts of service probably highest.
Yeah. Your poor husband later in life. You have the 2 hardest things to deliver on. It's super easy to buy gifts and say nice things.
Be me, baby girl. By the time we're 50.
I'm just saying that I really should have thought of this before I married my wife, is that if you can marry a woman that her love language, or a man, their love languages are gift giving and words of affirmation, That's so easy, dude. You could just, every morning you just be like, hey, you are a wonderful human being. And then here is a candy bar. And then they're just like overflowing with love.
Aww.
But this whole words of, or the acts of service, it's like, oh, I got to do dishes now? Come on.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Whatever.
fellas, take notes. One of my great quotes is, you can't say that the romance is dead if it was never alive to begin with. So,
Dang, what does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. I love my wife, but I love her in a very bizarre way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
that seems to be a good way to... we were talking about biblical principles.
Platonic, guys. Platonic. Friends to lovers?
Well, that is kind of our pathway. Like, we were pretty good pals. Well, honestly, that was a way to do it because we got over like all the weird insecurities because we already knew it of each other. So that helped. Also, we just don't take ourselves too seriously, and that's very great because we're very difficult people to live together. Anywho, that was weird. Let's talk about godly principles or biblical principles in friendships. I was going to lift up one. You know, y'all talked about like anger and you talked about like forgiveness, which grace is, I think, the word that you were looking for.
I know, I went basic.
I know, it's okay. You know, the second half of the Ten Commandments are pretty good. Like, I think that you're a pretty bad friend if you kill them. You know, I think you're a pretty bad friend if you like sleep with their significant other. I think you're a pretty bad friend if you are envious of their success and their financial aid package and their job and you know, their family situation. I think you're a pretty bad friend if you're lying all the time. So I think the second 5 Ten Commandments are very, very good, like, rules to live by. And yeah, I mean, if you just look at how Christ, like, hung out with his friends, then that's, like, a perfect example of, like, what you should do. And so kind of the inverse of that is, like, what are some things that you could avoid if you want to have a Christian friendship? Like, what are some of the pitfalls? Obviously, I just lifted up, like, killing each other and the 5 commandments. You know, that's pretty hard to be Christian. But what are the other things?
I do see in our generation a lot is the envy thing that you mentioned. Some people, like, are really insecure, and they kind of bring that insecurity out on their friends. Mm-hmm. And that's tough to be the friend in that situation.
Yeah.
And, like, because you want the best for your other friend always, like, but if they're taking it out on you, then that just creates the toxicity. So definitely avoid, like, you know, calling people out on, or being jealous and calling people out for things that they can't control too. That's another one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with clickiness because I think you see this in church bodies, but especially with, like, as a young person, I think I saw this in a lot of youth groups growing up.
Yeah.
Of, like, I know at my youth group there was a lot of different. There was majority of the kids were from my hometown's high school, Myrtle Beach High School, but we had like 3 to 4 kids that didn't go to that school that were from neighboring cities, and, like, I just always saw that it didn't seem like they really fit into the larger group dynamic, and, like, I don't think that was anyone on purpose, but, like, accidental clickiness happens. But yeah, I feel like clickiness is something you want to avoid because, like, I don't know, I don't feel like Jesus left out anybody, you know.
Inclusiveness.
Yeah, inclusiveness. That's a good word for it. Because you can't help if you're, like...
Inclusivity.
Yeah. Well, you can't, like...
I feel like this podcast episode I've been, like, ditzy.
It's like a fever dream, dude.
Yeah.
Well, like, you can't help, you know, if you feel drawn, I guess, to certain people, and that becomes, like, a tighter friendship than others.
Yeah.
I'm not calling that out. I'm just saying, making sure, though, that because you're closer with some people, you're not totally leaving out other people.
Yeah, and I'll just offer a perspective, too, with, like, Wesley. When we go on retreats, and even when we do, like, fun fellowship stuff, you know, the temptation is to hang out with the CFC folks or cadets to hang out with cadets. And, you know, and we've really tried to push against that. And I think we're doing a great job of, like, kind of having that inter-campus community. But yeah, so kind of clickiness, that's, like, something I've always tried to be hyper aware of in Wesley. But you're right, it does. I mean, it's in just about every faith body. I would say, you know, we throw this around a lot, but gossip is always pretty bad. I think that I see that in a lot of friend groups, is that, like, Ava and Isabella will have a conversation, and Isabella will come to me and you'll be like, you won't believe what Ava just said to me. It's like, well, no, y'all.
I didn't do that. Or you
Did I do that?
No, I was using it as an example. So
you look petrified.
Well,
Oh my god!
I feel like my metaphor or my example is now dead on the floor.
Sorry.
But that's
No,
okay.
good.
But I think y'all get where I was going.
Yeah.
Is I see that a lot in friend groups. Also, and this is just for specifically guys in college, is, fellas, we have to articulate our feelings better. Because, like, I've, like, been on mission trips where two dudes almost got into, like, a fist fight over playing spoons. Like, and it's like, guys, this is not at all how we handle this. And instead, it could have been a very basic conversation of, like, hey, man, I just didn't appreciate how you suggested that I was, like, weak or ineffective, and I just didn't appreciate that. Like, imagine, gentlemen, if we just lived in a world where we could all do that. And also, just being able to articulate your emotions is just a good thing in general for everyone. Because,
no silent treatment.
Yeah, that also is pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that sometimes. Like, just letting things simmer.
Well, I also think passive aggression is, like, one of the least effective conflict management. Because, like, I think in some ways it's better to just blow up, like, and just get it out in the open instead of this, like, slow burn.
Yeah.
Because I think that then it just kind of, like, ferments and just gets toxic so real quick. So, I think there's definitely a lot of things that we could avoid. And, like, you know, brokenness in general is something we could avoid to be a better friend. But looking at Scripture, you know, with these episodes, sometimes I have, like, a hard time finding a passage, but this one was, like, really easy. I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. And it comes from Mark chapter 2, and it's also found in Luke, but both passages are good. But I'm going to read the story, and then we're just going to lift up a few things. But it's Mark chapter 2, and it starts at verse 1. And this is in the New Testament, very early in the gospel. So Jesus is doing his thing. Jesus is gaining a lot of attention. And it reads, when Jesus returned to Capernaum after some days, it was reported that he was at home. So many gathered around that there was no longer room for them, not even in front of the door, and he was speaking the word to them. Then some people came bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. And when they could not bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him, and having dug through it, they let down the mat on which the paralytic lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, your sins are forgiven. I love this story because these are 5 really good friends. And one friend in this group was paralyzed, could not move, and had no way of getting to Christ. And the 4 of them pick him up, and they take him to Christ. And when they don't see the open doorway, when they don't see a way to get to Christ through the crowd, they instead climb on top of the building, dig through the thatch roof that would be like kind of a mixture of like palms and tar and mud and clay. They dig through that, and then they lower the paralytic to Christ because they knew their friend had to see Christ. And I love that story because right here at the end in verse 5, it says, when Jesus saw their faith, he forgave the paralytic. Not when Jesus saw the paralytic's faith that he was forgiven, but when Jesus saw the faith of the friends. And my point is that choose your friends wisely. Are your friends the people who are going to carry you as far as you need to go and dig through a roof and lower you into the room so that way you can be where you need to be with Christ? And that is an important thing to understand about godly friendships, is that if you share faith with people, you are saying that you are willing to do that. Because the truth is that sometimes we feel paralyzed in our faith. Sometimes we want faith and we just don't quite know how to get there. Sometimes we are hesitant on coming back to church. Being a godly friend is despite all of that, going for it. Because it's our faith that changes the life of our friend, not their faith. And so choose your friends wisely, because when you have godly friends, your life can be turned around. Because right after Christ forgives his sins, he then tells them to get up and walk. And that's a great story of biblical friendship. And it's such a wonderful tale of just like stick-to-itiveness and just blind dedication and devotion. So that's kind of my litmus test, is if you think your friend is going to dig through a roof and lower you because he can't find any other way of getting you to Christ, then like that's a good friend. And if they're the friend that would say, sorry, not today, it's super busy and we can't get in, then maybe you should reevaluate that friend. Tough words, but I think there's some truth in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some ways to build new friendships, and how can we reach out to others for friendship within our faith community?
Inviting them to Wesley. That's a start. Or inviting them to like a fellowship event, you know. I would say, like, when I went to college, I did not expect, I told them this already, but I did not expect to be in a ministry group. I was like, you know, kind of not in the right mindset for that at the time, I think. And once I got here, I was like, wow, I like how these people are living their lives, and I want to be around that more often. And I think once you invite somebody, that just gets the word out there that there's good people around you, and take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can be life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, like with Wesley, I think letting people know that you're always going to be there for them, even if you're not super close. Now, I'm not saying you need to be, like, beholden or, like, feel pressured to, like, you know, make someone's week or anything. But for me, what I feel like I can do is I have a car, so I can always text people, hey, I'm going to be there Monday night. Please let me know if you need a ride. I would love to take you. Like, again, I guess that kind of ties into my acts of service thing from earlier, but, like, being able to do the little things for people, because I think that is honestly sometimes more important than, like, some big, like, surprise party. I want us to be friends, you know? It's like, yeah, like, bombarding them or something. I feel like sometimes it's easier to just be like, yeah, give me a text if you want to go get something to eat, you know, or if you're feeling lonely, or
right.
Yeah,
to let somebody know you're thinking about them.
Yeah,
that means a lot.
Yeah, I think this is an obvious one that I think does need to be said, though, is it's really hard to make friends if you don't talk to people.
Yeah.
And, like, I am sorry for whoever feels called out just now, but
Me. Loki.
But it's really hard to meet new people. if you will not talk to new people, you know? And listen, I know that, like, there are people who have anxiety, and there are people who are shy, and there are people who are introverts. And I get all of that. But the truth still remains that you do have to figure out how to work within those parameters. Now, maybe you don't stand up in front of a group and, like, tell a funny joke, right? Maybe that's not you. But you can go up to a single person and you could say, hey, my name is John, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I don't think we've met before. Yeah? And then you're done. Then you're done, right? Start small, work up to it, you know? And I'm glad that you kind of said, like, invite them to a fellowship night. Because we do fellowship things in Wesley because, listen, we believe that God is a pretty awesome God who created a lot of fun things for us to celebrate in. And we try to have fun. Like, I mean, that's a part of our faith. But also, like, it is an easier ask, you know? If you're like, hey, come to Bible study, some people could have some weird feelings about that because they don't know if they're going to show up there and be shamed or judged or whatever. But if instead you're like, hey, dude, listen, we're doing a PowerPoint night and you should come. Well, no one gets judged in a PowerPoint night except on if they make a bad PowerPoint. You know what I mean? And then they meet me, the pastor, and then they realize, oh, John's like not making me feel bad about myself. And then they see other people who are just as broken as them, you know? And it's not that we're perfect. It's not that we think that we're perfect. It's that we're trying to become better. And so kind of in that vein, how do you think we can create an environment that is conducive for people to meet each other? You know, I mean, y'all are interns. Y'all are leaders in Wesley. I know a lot of leaders listen to this. But, like, how do you make a space where people can get along, where they can get to know each other? What are some strategies in that?
For me, like, I think sometimes it helps if you have this is going to sound weird, but if you have a good foundation of friends. So, like, for example, if me and Isabella are planning on going to pickleball and we want to reach out to new people and we know that we will be a good base and be able to keep the conversation going and not just, like, scare everybody from it being so awkward, we can be like, hey, we have a group of, like, 4 of us going. We wanted to extend it to everybody. Because I know I always, especially, like, the beginning of freshman year, was always scared of those new circles, you know, of, like, everyone being awkwardly silent. So if I knew that there was at least a couple, like, people that had friendships or had, like, conversation skills, it made me feel, like, a lot better. So, like, I think I would go with that answer.
Okay.
I'm thinking if you, like, welcome somebody in with open arms, like how you carry yourself and how you are around others, like you were just saying, Ava, around your friends, that means a lot. Like, them seeing that creates an inclusive environment.
Like, the art of welcoming someone is something that I think we've lost. And, like, when I was a teacher, I always made a point to just be like, hey, I'm, like, super glad you're here today. Like, because we just don't get told that. And at Wesley, like, I try to, like, on Monday nights, I try to speak to everyone in there and just be like, hey, like, how's your week going? Like, super glad to see you. Glad you're here. But just the art of welcome is such a important part of hospitality. Also, just a pro tip, if you're trying to, like, help some people out who are lonely, if you're trying to, like, get to know people, have something to eat. Like, that is such an icebreaker of just, like, grab yourself a plate and, like, let's sit down and, like, just, you know, just kind of go ahead and break that ice, invite them to serve themselves or whatever. I don't know what it is about food, but I just think there's
Put
like
that
something...
deli sandwich to work, people.
I just think there's something super holy about, like, eating together. I mean, that's, like, from the Book of Acts, but, like, there's also kind of a vulnerability in sharing a meal together, because eating's kind of gross if you think about it. But yet we do it together. So that's a tip. You also want to think about accessibility. You know, if you live on the 7th floor and there is not an elevator, you may want to actually think about hosting at a different location because some people might not be able to get to you. So I just think there's a lot of like practices in this, but I think the art of welcome is really, really key. And in Wesley, we kind of develop rhythms of like expectations to kind of break the ice. So like we grab our plates and then we do highs and lows, you know, and that immediately kind of like forces everyone to speak, but we're all kind of cutting up about it. And so then that immediately kind of breaks that tension for like a new person of like, oh my goodness. I have to be the one to generate conversation. You know, it's like it's already being generated and it's an expectation now. So
yeah. The last thing I think I'll say is I think Isabella like touched on this for a second, but I think I wanted to hone in on it a little bit more is like one way of being inclusive is not how you directly talk to somebody, but how you know, you interact with other people, because I think John said this before, but you never know who's listening, especially when we have new students come in. Mm-hmm. So, like, if me and I'm in the band, so if me and some of the band members are not having an inclusive conversation and someone who was thinking about joining the band hears that, they're not going to want to join, you know, even though we weren't directly talking to them or being rude to them. Like, right. You never know who's listening, which is like, ooh, scary, but like it does like give you that accountability of like I need to watch not only how I interact with new people and new friends, but also how I interact with old friends.
Yes, you said it best.
Do you really have something to add?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, I guess yeah. My last thing is something I'm a planner. I think a lot of people know that about me. This might be a weird suggestion, but sometimes I like to keep like a good couple like interesting questions in my back pocket.
Yeah, that's a good
and
idea.
Like just to like, because John, one of yours is like, tell me something I don't know about you
that I want to know,
or that I want to know.
Yeah, well then that's a really good qualifier, because I used to not. I'd be like, tell me something that I don't know about you, and then they'd be like, oh dude, I once like smoked crystal meth, and it's like, whoa, I don't want to know that, you know. So
bouncing off of that too, like if you can keep notes like of some like in your mind, like mental notes of what somebody likes and dislikes, you know, over time.
Yeah, be sure that's mental notes. Because if you have like a journal of like, Ava,
that's more romantic.
Ava likes
love.
the Rosemary Baby's daddy from Brown Dog, you know, that'd
mental
be creepy.
Notes, people.
But from a hospitality point of view, and I've said this to leaders multiple times, but if you ask someone like, hey, like, how are things going? And they're like, dude, I'm like so nervous about my stat exam this week. If you ask them the following week, hey, how was your stat exam?
Yes.
That is hospitality at its greatest. So it's just so good at like developing relationships, because it's kind of like what you were saying, Ava, about the small stuff, right? It's like the fact that you remembered that. And I always do that over like right before we go on breaks. I'm like, what are you doing over break? And they're like, oh, dude, I'm going to Disney. And then when they get back, I'm like, dude, what was your favorite ride at Disney? You know, that's a good move right there. So godly friendships are pretty cool, and Wesley Foundation, we got a lot of friendships. And so to close us out, what was a really moving moment of godly friendship that you've seen in Wesley? Whether you were the witness or a participant in it, like, what was that?
Ooh, I think I can go. I don't know if this counts, but I'm going to make it count. Isabella and I witnessed Rec Day for the first time last year. And, like, I don't think you had ever had any experience with it. I had heard about it, but never, like, seen one in person. And, like, you know, we are the part of, like, the CFC group. And then there's, like, the Citadel group, and we do see each other on Monday nights, which is like a really awesome way for us all to bond. But I never really know how those friendships go throughout the rest of the week, you know? I never really know, like, when they leave, like, who's talking to who or whatever. And so when I went to Rec Day, and I would see, like, a lot of the seniors, even the ones that didn't have any, like, stake in Rec Day, some of them would literally just go out there to cheer on, like, random, like, Wesley freshmen that they had become friends with. And that was, like, really cool. So, yeah.
Dude, I love Rec Day. Like, that is arguably one of my favorite days of the year.
Yeah.
Like, I am, like, so pumped for Rec Day every year. So, but that is a great one. I'm glad that I didn't even think about that, but yeah. And I'll jump in, too, based off of that. But the first time I went to Rec Day, I actually, like, cried because I witnessed something like that where Drew Forrester, it was, I can't remember who the Wesley freshman was, but Drew like picked them up because they like couldn't get up on their own, and Drew like picked them up and was like telling them like, you got this, like stay in it, you're good. And that's like a very powerful thing about the Citadel in general, but like the relationship that they shared through Wesley also made it moving. But just the fact that like an upperclassman would do that for someone was very moving. And like I said, like I literally cried. I thought it was just so beautiful.
Wow. I don't think I'm going to be able to top that. But going off of that, I know we've been talking about the Citadel, which is great. I love y'all. The senior send-off.
Oh, man.
This year, literally, I actually teared up because those cadets, they've been friends for, like, a long time, and they were all, like, this close-knit group, you know?
Yeah.
And to see them, like, line up at the front in the auditorium, that was just really moving because it was, like, a big, large line of people, and they were all bonded over this school and the hard times that the school's put them through, you know? And from, like, a CFC point of view, you don't really see, like, we don't really bond over our school like that. Go Cougs!
Yeah.
So
I know what you mean.
awesome.
I kind of missed that too. Like,
and they're all leaving anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's every year. It's every year.
Well, the cool thing about the senior send-off too is like the friends, even the people that had just joined that year.
Yeah.
Were next to people that have been there for 4 years, and all of them were still included. Like, it didn't matter, like, when you came to Wesley or stuff like that, which I think was also a really cool friendship moment.
Can I offer one more?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The past Christmas mission trip, Isabella, she just, like, opened up her room, because somehow you got a room by yourself. And there was, like, 6 beds in there.
That was awesome, by the way.
But you got a room by yourself. But I'm pretty sure you weren't supposed to, like, do that. Like, I like, mapped it out, and, like, everyone was supposed to share a room. But anyway, I, like, was walking down the hall, and Isabella's like, would you like to come into my room, John? And there was, like, everyone was, like, sitting around crisscross applesauce. And Isabella had all of these snacks on the table, and she was just like, would you like a snack? And everyone was just, like, having a good time. But, like, that's hospitality, and, like, I think I've said that to you, like, that you have such a tremendous...
That's my Roman Empire, by the way. Ever since you said that.
No, Isabella has, like, an innate gift for hospitality, of just making a place, like, welcoming and comfortable. So I did want to lift that up, because that was really cool. So.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Wow. Okay, anything else, or are we good?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Well, with that, we know it's up with godly friendships. If you have any questions, you can reach us at wuw@wesleychs.org. And also, don't forget to like or follow on whatever platform you're listening to.
And if you want to learn more about the Wesley Foundation, you can check out our website, which is wesleychs.org. And you can also check out our Facebook and Instagram, which Isabella runs and is making sure that we have cool content on that.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said...
Follow me, people.
With that being said, let's pray. God, we thank you for laughter and for humor and just for silliness and just the safe space to do that, while also talking about what you're doing in the lives of our friends and in us as we minister to our friends. Help us to reflect on the story of the 4 friends carrying their one, and just not refusing anything until they got their friend to Christ. And God, help us to be those friends and help us to find those friends. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Catch us next week.